Hello and welcome to Mythmakers. Mythmakers is the podcast for fantasy fans and fantasy creatives brought to you by the Oxford Centre for Fantasy. My name is Julia Golding and today I'm very excited to be able to welcome onto the podcast Emily J. Taylor, whose second novel, The Otherwhere Post, is it about to come out, Emily, or is it already out? How's it? Is it on the verge?
It's already out. It's out
already
in the UK.
Just out.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting for people listening because they can immediately go and find the book. Wonderful. Which is published by the Pushkin Press, which is a really exciting independent publisher. So, Emily, welcome. Now, Emily, you aren't sitting in Oxford or Oxfordshire like I am. Tell us where you are.
I am in beautiful, very warm right now, Minnesota in the United States. It's we're very close to Canada. It's usually cold and snowy most of the year, but right now it's pretty warm.
But looking at your bio, you are originally a California girl.
I am. I grew up in California and I moved around quite a bit. And then my husband and I kind of landed here and we've been here for a little while now. So this is pretty much home, but
so we're going to be talking mainly about the Otherwhere Post and writing that kind of fantasy, but let's work out how you got here. So what was your journey to being an author, and which of the authors that you've read had inspired you along the way to being a writer? It could be people you've read and thought, well, I'm definitely not doing that. Or those, I'd like to be them. I don't mind whichever way you take that question.
Yeah, I read so much. It's interesting. My path to becoming a writer was a little winding. I worked in advertising and I worked on the creative side. So I actually was an art director for years and years before I started writing books. And I always read. I was a voracious reader. I always was reading a book. I read quite a bit. And I loved reading, but I never knew that you could be a writer. It's funny, like growing up as a little girl, I never thought that, I could write books. I never entered into my brain space. And but I was a creative, and I feel like creatives, like we're authors are creatives, like we can take that creativity and apply it to a lot of other things. But yeah, so I worked as an art director for years. So very visual. But I wrote a lot of commercial scripts. I wrote quite a bit for my job, and I read a lot. And I would say the books that I loved reading, I read a lot of fantasy from a young age. I remember particularly reading like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe when I was really young and loving that. And then I also read, my mom had this collection of, they were these Gothic suspense novels. From I think there was this one like Daphne du Maurier. I read her, and then I also read this one author, Victoria Holt. I don't know.
Oh yes, yes,
rings a bell.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I read everything she wrote growing up, and then a lot of that same ilk. So all these really kind of romantic Gothic suspense novels.
Yeah, actually, you reminded me of a thread that we've never spoken about on this podcast, is that when I was growing up as well, because there was less published for sort of YA readership at that time.
Yes.
This is a category that I read Victoria Holt, Jean Plaidy.
Yes, Jean Plaidy, yeah.
Seaton. So these are historical
Gothic suspense.
In a sort of pre-Raphaelite vibe.
Yes.
Yes. Oh well, so thank you for taking me down memory lane.
Yes. Nobody knows who I'm talking about when I say her name, so thank you. But I was deeply into those, and I read those when I was very young, very impressionable, like middle grade, high school level here, and then I think the first YA I ever read was Twilight. It was, I think it was a lot of people's first young adult book that they read. And that kind of tipped me into YA. And I remember reading everything I could get my hands on that had a vampire in it for a little while.
So did you, I wonder if I was maybe a bit older than you. I probably am. I remember vividly, my daughter was reading Twilight, and I heard of the phenomenon. So I remember vividly sitting in a car park waiting outside whilst one of my children had a drumming lesson. I didn't go in for the drumming lesson because I found it a bit painful. I remember sitting in the car park reading this book and finding myself fixed, absolutely in that moment, in that world, but also sitting there wondering, why does this work? What is the secret to making this work?
Yeah, I've
Because in a sense, it's not, there are things which plot wise, I mean, you can pick it apart. There's some elements
mhm.
you can pick apart and criticize. And I think what I decided was that it managed to capture that obsession and breathlessness of a certain stage in your teen years.
Completely agree. Yes.
It's
Yeah.
really about that. I mean, the vampires is a nice lens to do that. But I did feel as though I was that 15, 16-year-old again with a crush on somebody who would really not suit me if I thought about it. um, anyway, so that's what it's funny that, isn't it? That so to write the YA, you have to sort of channel that inner teen, I think.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I like to say I'm like perpetually 17 years old.
Title for Perpetually 17, yeah. Wonderful. So um I was looking at the sort of the material that came along with your book when I
Yeah.
sent a lovely finished version, and there was like a little origin story they sent with it. But for
Oh,
those of you who don't get sent the origin version, we'd like to tell us where the Otherwhere Post came from.
yeah. I don't remember what I wrote on that, but
Well, I can give you prompts. You said it came in two parts.
Oh, yes. Okay. So the first part, so it actually started, I remember the exact moment it started. It was during the pandemic and I had a newborn at the time. So I was very sleep deprived. And I remember walking to the mailbox just to get mail. And I had just sold my first book, Hotel Magnifique, which is a standalone fantasy. And I was trying to think of a new idea to pitch as kind of a second, like a follow up to Hotel to present to editors. So that was in the back of my mind. But I remember walking to the mailbox and I had, and staring at the mailbox as one does when they're sleep deprived. And
Yeah, what is
I
this
had,
for? What am I
I
supposed
know, I know. I remember, I think it said like property of, or approved by the Postmaster General. I'm like, oh, there's interesting world building there. But the idea of, oh, what if mail wasn't ordinary? What if it could be magical? What if we could do things with it, like enchant it to leap off the page and form a missing relative in the air? And that idea of this enchanted mail really gripped me. And then I thought, oh, what if we could deliver mail to other worlds? And that was kind of the big sparkly idea that, and I always kind of start my books it's funny, I say I always do, but I've only written two books.
Yeah. So is it 100% track record so far?
Yes, 100% track record. But these questions of taking something that is ordinary and adding a magical twist to it. So I liked this notion of, oh, what if we can deliver mail to other worlds? And all these ideas started coming to me, and I immediately ran back home and came up with my main character, Maeve, who is the protagonist of this story. And it's about her. Do you want me to give a little pitch for the book?
Yeah, tell us about the book,
Yeah.
and then I'll make you tell me the second part.
Okay. Yes.
It involves Edinburgh, if you'd forgotten.
Yes. Yeah. So I'll give you a pitch for the book and then we'll. So the story is about this girl named Maeve, and Maeve's father committed this horrible crime, and she is essentially running from her. She doesn't want anybody to find out that she's his daughter. So she moves from place to place. She's afraid of making friends. She's afraid of getting close to anybody, so she doesn't go on dates. It's this really heartbreaking existence for her until one day she receives this letter. And it's not any ordinary letter. It's enchanted to be delivered right to her. It's from another world. And it tells her that her father was actually innocent. And she has to figure out if it's true or not, because it would completely change her life. So to do that, she sneaks her way into this apprenticeship at this magical school where she learns kind of this dark magic that allows the couriers to enchant letters and deliver them to other worlds. And there she meets a boy And there's this great tension because she has to figure out this big mystery while also being undercover, and she's falling in love for the first time. So she has to learn how to trust and learn whether or not she can trust other people.
Yeah. So when you say school, just for those who are listening from a sort of European side, we mean
Yes.
university level college as opposed to younger kids, Harry Potter-esque stuff. And
Yes.
it's more like a trade school in a way because they're learning the skills of scriptomancy, things to do with the letters. It's got a theme running through it. It's not so
Yeah, I would say it's
make
like
it
a like a dark academia apprenticeship.
yeah. Yeah. Just
Yes.
so that we're moving out of the Harry Potter world of starting at 11. It's not that
Yes.
stuff.
Yes.
But it's
No, this is
older stuff.
much darker. Much darker, yes.
And I suppose death rates in Hogwarts are quite high as well, but there is a real risk associated with this crossing between the worlds of letters. It's not it's more like going to the armed forces or something, or the Air Force. It's got a sort of death toll associated with it. So stakes are high, as we like to know in stories. So tell us about, this is probably more to do with the world building, but tell us about Edinburgh as a spark for this idea.
Yeah. So I had the idea, went to the mailbox, had the idea. And it was just that. It was an idea, and I wrote a little bit, I did some free writing on it, and I couldn't figure out what it looked like. I'm such a visual person. I come from art direction, so I love to have, I pull a lot of scrap. I like to create kind of the feel for my book visually so I can picture it perfectly as I'm writing the story. And it didn't really come together until I was traveling. I actually did a writing retreat in the UK, and then I went north up to Edinburgh. And I remember someone asked me what was the square that I was standing in, and I don't remember what it was called. But I remember they were they had all these covered alleyways called closes, and I remember staring at the buildings, and the city itself has a lot of Gothic architecture, and the buildings have this amazing black sediment dripping down the sides that because of the weather there, and it almost makes them look ink stained. And I saw that, and it just kind of clicked, and I thought, oh, this is my book needs to feel like this. Like, this is my story. I'm literally standing in my magic system right now. And that directly inspired the main world that Maeve lives in, and the setting. So it really wasn't the first free writing and stuff that I did. It wasn't a dark academia. It wasn't really until I went to Edinburgh that it became what it is and kind of gelled for me. But I would say people ask, so is it Edinburgh? And it's not Edinburgh. It's inspired by that moment.
Yeah, no, it didn't feel like Edinburgh to me.
Yes.
Really. I mean, Edinburgh has a very unique architecture because the castle sits on a volcanic plug. So
I didn't know that. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So you've got the old town, which is what you're talking about.
Yes. Yeah.
Necessarily going up to the castle, that's the older part. And then around, sort of in the flatter area where the railway station are and where the festival is, are the more the later streets with broader shopping streets and things like that. So it's definitely a city with lots of different parts to it, different architectural periods. And I think thinking around, though you mentioned the closes, that's in that bit, that's the ancient heart.
Yes, the ancient part, yeah.
Yeah. Nice and fantasy. Suitable for fantasy, absolutely.
Yes.
So thinking about your process, for those of you who are watching this on the YouTube version, I can see behind you, you've got a whiteboard of some sort with
Oh my.
Are you a person who sort of pins up your plots and your ideas? You actually have a physical expression of your story. People are always interested how people write a book. Do you need to get it out there to look at it in order to write, or is there some sort of document on your computer or these photographs in?
Yeah, my process is so chaotic. There's both. I kind of tend to take notes everywhere, but I do have in my office, I have a one wall is just made out of cork, so I can pin things up to it. So as an art director, like I always would pin, like kind of create a mood board, uh, in front of me, and so I could like physically take scrap down and put scrap up. And I loved that process. And I kind of continued doing that as I started writing books. So I like to pin different scenes, and I'll print out like little pieces of scrap, or even I tend to take inspiration from everywhere. So not necessarily like visual, but I love fashion. So I might find like a designer that is doing cool things and pin like a piece of clothing from like their show up, or like a cool little antidote from traveling, and create something that is next to me, so that if I am stuck, sometimes I just turn and look at my wall and stare at it for a moment. But I think it helps for me. It helps just to see things visually and have something up.
So that sort of goes to my question about you've got a number of worlds in
Mm-hmm.
your story, including one which is sort of closed off. I don't think that's a plot spoiler because that's established at the beginning.
It's fine. Yeah.
And you have a map at the beginning of your book, but of course they can't do the map of everything because
I know.
that would be impossible um, to visualize. But the map is of um, the Otherwhere Post, sort of like the university,
Mm-hmm.
the college buildings, which is rather lovely. Um, I didn't use that whilst I was reading. I looked at it later, thought, oh, that's nice, but I didn't feel the need for it. So how do you keep your layers of worlds? I can remember three. There might be
Yes. There's three. Yeah.
three. Yeah, good. I got that. Oh, well done. I read it properly. How do you keep it straight in your head? Because they're sort of layered on each other like parallel worlds. That's probably not quite the right word, but it's not like
Yeah.
going to America and going to England. It's like you go to this version of England and then another version of England and then another version. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep. It's a multiverse. So it's essentially parallel worlds that are layered on top of one another. Um, and I don't know how I keep it straight. I just do. Yeah, I can picture
They actually
everything.
travel quite a long way in one of the worlds, don't they?
Yes.
Away from, they take a train journey. So you have to sort of, there's always that jeopardy about, are they going to get back? Uh,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it reminds me did you read any Enid Blyton books when you were growing up? There's one called, it was like the standard kids fare here, called The
Okay.
Magic Faraway Tree, where the big jeopardy, which used to really worry me as a kid, is that if you stayed in the land too long, it would move and you couldn't get down the tree again. So there was this
Oh,
feeling of, would you
interesting.
be able to get back through the door again if you
Okay.
stay too long? Uh,
Yeah.
because when you go from parallel worlds, seems to always be a massive issue. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about is you're writing in a sort of version of a historical time period,
Hmm.
which I would say is early 20th century,
Yes. Yeah.
almost into war, really, I'd have
Yep.
thought, with the technology. Um, how do you go about, but it's not within the politics of that era. It's not
Mhm.
referencing specific things. It's just the level of technology, the clothes, some of the gender assumptions, and the way people buy and sell things. It's all that, you can tell from that level where you are. How do you go around choosing for your fantasy which period to set it in? And are you choosing negatively? I don't want to do this period because too many people have done it.
Yeah.
How do you find it?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think with this book, I chose that particular period, because I wanted. Why did I choose that period? There was a big reason for it. And I think it came down to the magic system, where I had developed this magic system with inks and quills, and I wanted the world to feel accessible. So accessibility is a big thing with my writing. Like I want someone to be able to read it and be able to instantly understand what this fantasy world is, even though it's a second world fantasy, because it's slightly based on things that they already know. So, with my first book, I the world itself was based off of the Belle Epoque, because I was really fascinated with this idea of this Belle Epoque hotel. It's so the first book that I wrote is about a magical hotel that travels, where you wake up every morning in a different location across this kind of fantastical world. And that time period was because I wanted it to wanted the hotel to make sense in whatever time period that it was set in. This book was I wanted the magic system to feel grounded and not not anachronistic. Like I wanted it to feel like it fit naturally with this world and this whole idea of I got really into researching inks and quill feathers and like how people choose different quill pens to write. So the magic system is all based on handwriting. And that's like a big part of the world building. So this was really based off of wanting that magic system to make sense while also wanting a world that felt a little bit more modern, but not so modern that people wouldn't use that type of writing.
I don't know if you have thought this, but I think one of the reasons why the early 20th century works for this is it's like the high watermark of the letter writing practice. So
Yes.
we've got family papers, including the occasional postcard where I know some great grandfather would write to his wife, "I'll be home by 3 o'clock." Because there were so many posts, it's like if
Yeah,
it
it was
was
when,
now, it would arrive
yeah,
before he did.
yes. Yeah,
So,
I love that.
and then
It
of
was,
course the mail, the trains delivering, the steam engine,
yeah,
the night train, which of course is a famous poem, I think by oh, God, I'm trying to remember what I'll look it up. The night train poem. I put it in the show notes. It romanticizes the idea of the post moving through the night across the country.
Mhm.
Presumably the same in America, though you had more of a the Pony Express, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah.
That's not this world. It feels more of a doesn't feel like an American world. It feels more like a kind of UK. That sort of the size of it feels more like a kind of European UK world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I wanted to set it in a place where it felt more modern too, but then there was this deep well of like ancient history that you could
Yeah.
feel in like the architecture. And as they're walking through it, that I mean, you can have a couple places in America, but it's really difficult. And I actually did some research on there was a little blip where I thought about setting it in the US and in the West because our postal system actually was the reason why we built a lot of our infrastructure. So like all of our freeways and stuff were built and railway systems were built because of
Yeah.
starting the postal system. But I wanted that. I didn't want it to feel like that. I wanted it to feel more like a European city.
Yeah, it definitely does. So another theme that I was interested in as I was reading this is the idea of isolation.
Mhm.
So that in fantasy and sci-fi, you've got this possibility in different ways of making smaller communities isolated. So
Mhm.
what I mean by that, you can take it to the extreme of something like Lord of the Flies, where it's a community
Mhm.
abandoned on an island and you see what happens. Or the idea of being a place being cut off from the rest of the world. And that has happened to one of your worlds in this story. And in a way, they're all cut off from each other with just this
Yeah.
final link of the post still holding them together.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I've got some views, but tell me what you feel about the potential of the plot of isolation for a writer. Does
Mm.
that offer you?
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't necessarily come at this story from that angle, but it's in it lets you do things that you aren't able to do when you don't have isolation. Like you can create kind of this. I'm curious what you would
Well,
think, but
yeah, I think it's a bit like looking at sort of crime fiction, the sort of Agatha Christie country house murder. The thing
mm-hmm.
about isolating a world or isolating a community is you can intensify it, but also not make it too difficult to explain.
Yes, that
So
is true.
you get
Yeah,
basically it's a form of microcosm. You
yeah,
microcosm your world so that when Alice goes into Wonderland, she doesn't go into the entirety of Wonderland. She goes into the small area around.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Harry Potter, certainly to start with, it's not the entire wizarding world. It's just Hogwarts. So you basically have little communities which you explore. And for you, it's in your book, I think it's mainly obviously the college, the school for the postal workers, and the area immediately around, the towns immediately around that. You're not doing the whole globe of
No.
maybe
Yeah. No.
the globe. I don't want to.
Up to. No, I'm just kidding. There's
Could be a flat Earth. That would, but so I think that maybe that's why instinctively all writers choose something like that, because it allows us to do the sort of the small and beautiful world building, as opposed to, hey, we're going to do a War and Peace style epic. That's a very heavy lift doing that.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely do it for like there's a reason why there's only three worlds and one of them is cut off. Um it's already a complicated enough concept that I wanted to make it as simple as possible and easy to digest as possible. So you really focus on the characters and the story, and you're not so confused by all this extra world building. Um
How,
yeah, and I wanted. Oh, what were you gonna say?
yeah, I was going to ask how much, if it did, how much did the book change from its first draft to the published version? I mean, what was the effect of having your correspondence? See the link, your correspondence with your editor on it.
Yeah. So this is I tell a lot of people this. The first draft of the Otherwhere Post is not the version that you're reading. There was a draft that I wrote of the story that was completely different. It had a different antagonist. The plot was different. The characters were all there. They were a little different. Tristan was definitely a different. He was more of like a stereotypical um love interest than he is in the final version. And I wrote it and it wasn't working, so I just deleted it and started over. So that draft is completely different than what is published. But the first draft of like the version that exists now, it I would say it was more complicated. Like it's just for me, my process. I I love to put too much in sometimes, where I'll I'll complicate things too much. So it's just like really boiling down and simplifying to get the final results as clear as possible, because my magic systems and my world building tends to be like a little bit more complicated. So it's how can I do something that's very easily digestible? And then I say that, but then we added a lot more into. So it's like it's simplifying and making things easily digestible, but then also like layering on top, like world building, so you feel really immersed in the story.
Yeah, I think in a way the first draft you write for yourself, and then later
Yes.
drafts are written for
Yeah.
somebody else. And that's
Oh, that's such an interesting take.
because what you know and what you're it the hackneyed phrase "kill your darlings" is getting at this. It's what you really enjoy, and where it may have come from is that stew pot going on inside your head with all these ideas, whereas you don't actually need to inflict that on everybody else. Actually, you can get rid of some of that and craft from that material a
Yeah.
story that hangs together. Oh, that's the idea, and that's where an editor can really help. You see what you can't see
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
shaping of it. Yeah. So, would you say that the story is complete, or is there more plans for Maeve and the Otherwhere Post? Is this a standalone, or are you carrying on in this world?
It is a standalone. Yeah, I crafted it. It's funny. I always feel like this after I'm finished with a book. I'm like, oh, there's so many more things I could write in this story, because you make a world, you build this whole entire world that feels rich and deep, that has other stories going on in it. But I think that that's the beauty of like doing a world justice, you know. But I feel like this is the story for now. This is the story I wanted to tell, and it's definitely a standalone.
And
I'll
so,
never say never.
yeah,
But,
what's
yeah.
working on next?
I'm working on something that I am not allowed to talk about yet, but
Oh,
it is.
okay.
Yeah,
Oh, right. Well, if you are, you
I know.
are working on something. So I
Yes.
haven't forewarned you on this question, but it's very helpful to people who are wanting to follow your tracks and get their first book published. My first book was published so long ago that my advice is no longer relevant. There was still a Borders when I was publishing. Um, when I first got published. Um, what would you say is the best advice that you've been given on this crazy journey that is publishing?
Yeah, so much good advice. I think just finishing the book, like a lot of people uh want to write, but you really need to learn how to finish a book and then go through and start revising it. And it's very hard to finish a book. So just finish a book. People ask me all the time, like, how do I get into publishing? I'm like, just write.
Yeah,
I didn't start, I didn't I started writing as a hobby. And then I finally, I had written Hotel Magnifique, and a lot of people, um, I'd tell people about it and then be like, that sounds amazing. You should publish it. And that was when I first started thinking about publishing. But before that, I think I had like 4 books that I had written before that, I don't know if it's in the UK, but they do National Novel Writing Month in the US,
yeah.
where
November.
it's November. Yes. So I did that and I just kept writing. I kept on the same schedule. So I wrote so much for like a couple of years. And then I did National Novel Writing twice. And at the end of those like 2 years, I had, I think like four like full length books that I didn't go back and revise at all. But I fell in love with writing. And I think that's really important because
Yeah,
what you do is you have to, once you publish, like you're working with a company that turns your books into products. And that's a whole different thing where you really need to learn to love the process first and get confident in your own writing.
yeah. You're right. There's definitely a gap, isn't there? So
Yeah.
even today, I get people I know who know I'm a novelist. You know, I've
Mhm.
written over 70 novels now, and they come up to me and they say, "I've got this idea.
Yes.
This idea, but I haven't got time to write it. I literally had
Mhm.
somebody last week who I thought would know me better than this. Here's my idea, and if there you go and do the work, and that's just so silly because novelists will tell you the ideas are the easy part.
Mhm.
It's the actual boring stuff of sitting down, apply,
Mhm.
bum to seat and fingers to typewriter. That's the stuff that actually is the difficult bit. And as you say, moving through that to finish something is a real
Mhm.
achievement. Of course,
Mhm.
it's not finished ever, but finishing the first draft uh, is
Finish a first draft.
so
Yeah.
persistence. Actually, if you're going to turn in a novel in November or other times of year are available,
Mhm.
um, actually do the work.
Yeah. Just write. Finish it. Finish it.
A
Yeah.
publisher is not going to like you coming and saying, "I've got such a brilliant idea, which I can't be bothered to write," but trust me. Yeah, that's lovely, Emily. So thank you so much for that. And
Yeah.
we wish you
Yeah.
all the best with the Otherwhere Post. But before we sign off, I always like to end with taking a tour around all the available fantasy worlds and
Mhm.
thinking about where it might be fun to find a theme from your stories. Where is the best place for something? And I thought, in honor of your book, I wondered where in the best place in all fantasy worlds is the best place to be a postman, postwoman, postperson, delivering letters. It's not the
Uh,
writing of them I'm interested in. It's the delivering of them.
delivering of them.
Yeah. Where would you like
Mhm.
to get in your spaceship, ride your horse or dragon, whatever, and deliver post?
I know so many of my favorite fantasy worlds are so violent and that I would never put a postman in.
Well, exactly. That counts those out, like Game of Thrones. No thanks.
I would say maybe like a Studio Ghibli, like Diana Wynne Jones' House Moving Castle.
Oh,
But like the
yes.
Studio Ghibli version where it's very like pastoral and
Can you imagine
Pleasant.
trying to keep up with House Moving Castle to deliver?
Yes, that's true. That would be really difficult, but kind of a fun challenge for it.
That would be a bit similar, but more dangerous in the Immortal Engines of Philip Reeve, like chasing those worlds that are on that sort of amazing imagination he has. Okay, so House Moving Castle World, that's a good answer. I think because it gives you a chance to visit.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
You have a reason for going to the door, and you're sort of also outside of the communities. I think it would be a really good profession in many fantasy worlds. But why don't I go a bit more sci-fi, just to kind of, I guess it might be one of the nice ways to interact with the Star Wars world. So
That's interesting.
not be part of the Empire or anything, but you could just pootle around and drop in. I like the idea of being able to travel from planet to planet. That'd be quite fun. Try not to get caught up in the politics, which I've never been able to follow in Star Wars.
As a postal worker in the Star Wars world would be interesting. Yeah.
A different kind of force.
Yes.
May the force be with you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you so much, Emily. It's been lovely talking to you.
Thank you so much. Yes, this was lovely. Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Mythmakers podcast, brought to you by the Oxford Centre for Fantasy. Visit oxfordcenterforfantasy.org to join in the fun. Find out about our online courses, in-person stays in Oxford, plus visit our shop for great gifts. Tell a friend and subscribe wherever you find your favourite podcasts worldwide.